Zodiac 101. I'm Tom. I've operated a Zodiac website since 1998. I've done about 25 years worth of case research. I learned the Zodiac case from the original players like Paul Avery, newspaper reporter, also inspectors Dave Toschi and Detective Ken Narlow. And so I feel like I have some good information to share with people. This particular episode of Zodiac 101 is called San Francisco Chronicles. And I want to make sure and mention that I want to dedicate this presentation to the memory of Paul Avery. So we take for granted, I believe, the Chronicle. I mean, it's where Zodiac wrote most of his letters. But from a research standpoint, I think the Chronicle is really worth spending some time on. This won't be a particularly long presentation, but I think you're going to learn some stuff that's really interesting. So the Chronicle was located at the intersection of 5th and Mission. The original version of the Chronicle was in a different part of town, but in 1926, this version that you see here was built in 1926, and it's where the Chronicle still stands to this day. This neighborhood is called South of Market, or SOMA for short, and 5th Street runs this way, and Mission runs this way, and the Chronicle building is this rectangle right here. So it's called South of Market because this is Market Street, which was like the main strip through San Francisco, especially back in the day. And so this is south of Market Street, so they call it SOMA for short, or South of Market. It's always been kind of a gritty neighborhood. So this is Mission, and this is 5th Street. And from what I learned from Paul Avery and further research, the layout of the building, it had the printing press in the basement. The main floor was mostly women taking classified ads over the phone, and also cold calling people and selling subscriptions to the Chronicle. This floor was mostly men. The second floor was the newsroom and mail room, where they went through the mail and where the Zodiac letters were first noticed. And the top floor was administrative offices. So if you remember Templeton Peck, that character from the Zodiac movie in 2007, he would have had like an office way up here and probably a jacuzzi. So this building, 1926, was when it was built. And it looks almost exactly the same now, except the original exterior was Gothic. That was the theme. That stayed that way until 1968, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. You're going to really want to hear the story of when it went from Gothic to stucco. It's fascinating. Now today, of course, the Chronicle building is kind of sad. When this business was at its peak, it employed about 1,000 people. It was operational every day of the year, 24/7. And it was its own little city all by itself. This is before smartphones. This is before cable TV. People got their info from one place, the Chronicle, and it was the same in every city. The newspaper, the local newspaper, was the lifeblood of that city. And so, I mean, imagine how important your phone is to you today. That was the Chronicle back during the Zodiac era. So everybody read it. Everybody knew where it was. And at its peak, the Sunday edition of the Chronicle would sell upwards of 700,000 issues, or editions, or whatever they called it. That's just in one Sunday, 700,000. And newspapers, I'm sure there are people listening to this presentation who have never read a newspaper because they're just not really a thing anymore since the late 90s. Everyone's getting their info on internet machines, but newspapers used to be like 2 feet tall, and you'd open them and they'd be like 4 feet wide, and they were a thing that not so much anymore. Okay, so we're going to go from here down to this spot right there. And by the way, taking screenshots. I forgot to get my cursor out of the way, so you might see stuff like this. I hope it doesn't bother you as much as it bugs me. Okay, so this is an alleyway called Mena, and it goes for several blocks that way. This is 5th Street, and this is the Chronicle building. And so in 1968, there was an extension built to the Chronicle building. And during that time, the Chronicle building finally got a facelift, and it went from Gothic exterior to stucco. Why do I know stuff like that? Because I'm the Zodiac guy, and no minutia is too ridiculous for me to memorize. Lots of alleyways around here, and they're going to play a role in this presentation coming up shortly. You won't want to miss that. So now we were looking from here this way, and now we're here looking that way. Okay, in 1968, something important happened. The Chronicle's main rival, really the only other semi-successful newspaper in San Francisco, mainstream newspaper, was the Examiner. And it wasn't really competition for the Chronicle, but it was competition. It just wasn't a close competition. It was like the Harlem Globetrotters against whatever that team was they used to beat up on. And so in 1965, the company that owned the Chronicle bought the Examiner. And in 1968, this building was built and this overpass was built so that the Chronicle and the Examiner were connected. The Chronicle right here put out the morning issue, and the Examiner, under their name, the Examiner, came out with the afternoon issue. And it was a big deal when these two papers merged, and Zodiac would have known about that. And I can't help but think that these alleys around here, I can't help but think that he would have been in the area, especially when he knew one of his letters would arrive. Could he resist? But a lot of people don't know this, that these newspapers from 1968 until 2000, I think it was, during the entire time of the Zodiac era, these papers, the Chronicle and the Examiner, were connected. Now we're looking back towards Mission. This is 5th. This is another alley, Natoma. This is the side of the Examiner building, and here's the Mena cutting through. Here's the Chronicle. This is now the headquarters for Yahoo, by the way. Now keep an eye on where she is positioned. She would be like right about here, heading down this way. This is 5th, and this is Howard, the cross street. Howard runs the same way as Mission behind us. So Paul Avery wasn't depicted as such in the 2007 film by David Fincher, but Paul Avery, because of his smoking and partaking in other adult type of activities, had emphysema, and this was the hangout for all the newspaper guys. It's now the Chieftain Irish Pub, but back in the day this was the M&M Tavern, and Paul could be seen dragging his oxygen tank down the sidewalk on 5th Street to go drink at the M&M Tavern. So this was well known throughout San Francisco, the M&M Tavern. Celebrities used to go there, and it was a newspaper bar, and Zodiac would have known that. Here we're in Howard Street. It's very dangerous. You shouldn't do that. And here's 5th, and here's the Examiner building, and here's the Chronicle. This was the M&M Tavern. It's now the Chieftain, probably to go only. Keep your distance. I just have to think that Zodiac would have gone in there. I'm sort of a reporter. I'm kind of a lowbrow internet reporter, but it works for me the same as it works for other reporters. You can oftentimes get information that's given to you off the record, which means don't share it. Or don't share it if you're going to name me as being the person who gave you the info. Detectives that I can't share. And if you share it anyway, then they'll never talk to you again. And I know that the M&M Tavern, I know Paul Avery went there, and I know that he got tips from Dave Toshke and from Inspector Armstrong, giving details to Paul Avery on the condition that you don't report it. But after 2 or 3 beers or something blue drinks, that they're going to be talking the Zodiac case in there. And if the Zodiac didn't know that he might overhear some top secret details, then he probably quickly learned after going into this tavern. Do you think he would have been able to avoid it? Knowing that this is where Paul Avery, because you'd see Paul Avery from a mile away with his oxygen tank. Yeah, I have to think Zodiac went in here at some point in time. I'd be disappointed in Zodiac if he did not go in the M&M Tavern. Now we're back to this woman. We're going to go down Natoma. We went down Natoma to another alley, Mary. So this is Natoma, this is Mary, and I don't think it was Mary Kelly that it was named after, but it might well have been. And I'll tell you why in a minute. This is a very dangerous area. These alleys are extremely dangerous. So I'm showing you the Tempest because it was the inspiration in the 2007 film for Morty's. And here's Paul Avery drinking something blue, or he'll soon be drinking something blue. But the Tempest was the kind of inspiration for Morty's, as you can see. And I did, yes, go in Morty's. I'm a thorough researcher. I didn't have something blue, though. Now we're going to stand here at Mary and Natoma, and we're going to look this way. So we're looking back towards Mission. So in 1970, when Paul Avery got his Halloween card, he decided he needed some protection. And so he bought a gun. And at one point in these alleys, he spotted a mugging in progress, and he had to go ahead and produce his gun and stop the mugging. And that's when he realized he probably should get rid of his gun, or he might use it on somebody. But these alleys were really dangerous. We're going to go this way to the cross alley of Mena. Okay, so we came from over here, and we went to the intersection of Mary and Mena. We're looking this way. I've been down there. You don't want to go down there. Now, do we think Zodiac really could have resisted parking here? Because if we do a 180, there's the Chronicle, there's the Examiner. You're not going to be all that suspicious if you're in this area. A lot of activity in this area. There were restaurants and bars. It was pretty rough, but we know Zodiac was armed and was capable of. It makes me wonder if he would have ever been in this area, just experienced the buzz of maybe a new letter of his arriving at the newspaper. Would he have potentially committed a murder in these alleys and not taken credit for it? So I'm curious, maybe a homework assignment from Zodiac 101. Who wants to research any potential unsolved murders that may not look like Zodiac murders? Maybe somebody wanted it to look like they were just rolling some bum, or it was a bad drug deal or something like that, a mugging like Paul Avery saw. But any unsolved cases on Mena, Natoma, Mary, I think would be really interesting to look at. And again, this overpass and this building right here were built in 1968, so the Chronicle and the Examiner could be connected. People could go back and forth on these. They probably called them something futuristic like skyways. Okay, we're at the end of Mary at Mission, and this is the butt of the Chronicle building. And if you cross Mission and then go this way about 20 yards, you'll come to the Chronicle Hotel. If this shows up on Priceline, don't book it. You know the sidewalk smells like used wine, and it's seen better days, but the whole neighborhood had I love that joke. I've used it for so long. Used wine. I'm trying to remember. I think David Letterman. I got that from him. I stole it. It's seen better days, but the whole neighborhood used to have a newspaper theme. You could go to a newspaper bar. You could stay at a newspaper hotel. And, of course, the Chronicle and the Examiner were the two newspapers connected. There's still kind of a 60s vibe in San Francisco. Not far from the Chronicle Hotel is the Go-Go Market. Go-Go, okay, that's almost as old as newspapers. Go-go dancing was a trend in the 60s. Go-go boots. My mother had those when I was born. And probably if you went in this market, they probably have Twinkies and beef jerky from the 1960s. The current Paul Avery is Kevin Fagan, who's a very nice guy. And he smells good too, by the way. But Kevin's a good friend, and he's a great reporter. And he helped me get into the Chronicle building, which is a heavily secured fortress. Check out Kevin's work on other serial killers besides the Zodiac, but when there's a Zodiac story for the Chronicle, it's now Kevin Fagan who writes the stories. And thanks to Kevin, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, I got into the Chronicle, and I was apparently going through a Vanilla Ice stage. I don't know how to explain this outfit except midlife crisis or something, but pay attention to the pillars in the background and the wood frame and the glass, because the pillars were painted yellow, but they were still there. And here's the wood frame and the glass. I think I was standing like right here when this picture was taken down. So I think Robert Downey Jr. would have been right here, and Jake would have been right here, maybe. Something like that. Anyway, I didn't notice them at the time. If you had a business back then, a bar or anything else, you had matchbooks, for matchbooks, and you with your logo and phone number and address, and you also had postcards. So here is the postcard for the M&M Tavern. This is Howard. This is 5th. And you're going to love this. Another homework assignment, not just looking up murders in the alleys around the Chronicle, but there is a memorial website for the M&M Tavern. Of course, long ago, went out of business. But this website is filled with all sorts of awesome pictures of people in the M&M Tavern from the late 60s and early 70s. Is Zodiac in one of these pictures? I know they mentioned Herb Cain. He was a columnist for the Chronicle. There's lots of pictures to go through, and the website address is mmtavern.com. 2 M's, tavern.com. mmtavern.com. So between the M&M Tavern website and searchingnewspapers.com for any murders in the area of Mary and Minna and Natoma, I think this is some fresh research right here, hot off the Zodiac griddle. I would like to thank, again, Kevin Fagan for letting me get into the Chronicle building, and I actually saw their box of Zodiac stuff, mostly kook letters, but still. And I got to sit at Paul Avery's old desk, and that was cool. But I'm not going to show you that picture because I really am looking like a midlife crisis in that one. A little extra. This was a long time ago. I'm fine now, but yeah, I went through a kind of a late Vanilla Ice stage. Now, I have an upcoming presentation. Make a mental note. Actually, just click subscribe, and you'll be automatically notified when I add new content. Do you remember, like in 2007, 2008, that suspect that I used to call Sam, I found because of the Eureka card? The Eureka card led me to Sam. And you might be wondering, what the hell happened with that? That just disappeared. Well, I can finally tell you all about it because Sam passed away. And I actually have the investigative evidence to prove that, yeah, he was a real man. And yeah, they really thought he was a Zodiac. That's in an upcoming episode of Zodiac 101. If you like this video, click like. If you have questions or comments, post them down below. And again, click subscribe if you want to be automatically notified of future episodes of Zodiac 101. Thanks for listening.